All right. Hello there, YouTube. This is a kind of a weird podcast, not a podcast thing that's been kind of in the works for a few months now. I'm Comrade. I'm a fighting game player of about 25 some years. I've been dabbling in a bunch of stuff, and this is my buddy Genki. You want to have a second introduce yourself?
Mm-hmm. Good evening, or good day, or good morning, or whatever you have. It's me, Genki. What are you laughing at? I've been playing fighting games for long enough. I want to say since I was a kid, so I know some stuff here and there. But I think I'm known more for Hisoutensoku. I've been playing this fighting game for at least 10 years, which is I want to say plenty, but it's never enough.
Yeah,
So
and that is what brings us here today. We've had this idea of having a funny little one, because you might have seen it on YouTube where a lot of people love to do those. This is why we play old video game in current year. And the two of us really, really fucking love Hisoutensoku. This game is super weird and fucking interesting. And we felt it would be really neat to get together and have a bit of a conversation about why we think this game is really cool and kind of have a targeted discussion about some of the weird, interesting, quirky things that this game does that you don't really see in a lot of other fighting games. And a lot of surface level perceptions of Soku is that the game is weird, random, stupid, and hoping. I know,
oh
right?
yeah,
It's the weather.
no,
People
yeah.
talk about the weather like it's a dice roll. People look at the card system and think it's
Can I make a mention here?
intentional.
I can I make a mention here? Like, I
Yeah,
think the funniest thing about people thinking the game is really bizarre is that the stuff they think is bizarre is the most normal stuff, right?
I
But
know.
when
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that's the funny. It's when
yeah.
you actually go into the game. Like, oh, the weather is like randomized, or like there is this there is no timer, and it's like, yeah, that is quite unique. But it is actually the meat when you actually play the game mechanics, the basic game mechanics. Those are it's wild. Those are actually wild, genuinely.
What if I told you there was no traditional strike throw offense? What if I told
Mm-hmm.
you you could run dash through projectiles? Oh shit.
Mm. And that's not even like the craziest thing, but it is pretty damn crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, we decided to get together and pull up three topics that we thought would kind of punctuate what we think is very cool about the underlying mindset of the game. Just kind of put on a good showcase for why we think this game is cool and why someone viewing this, listening to this, for whatever, should give Hisuten Soku a shot and play what is probably one of the most unique fighting games out there. So let's begin with something that is real simple and straightforward to understand. The deck building concept.
Yeah.
So super like every fighting game, Hisa Tensoku has access you have access to a super meter. And that
Mm.
super meter exists as a 5 chunk thing represented by cards in a hand. And you go into a match with 20 cards in a deck. And every time you fill one of your meter chunks, you are dealt one card from your deck. You hold a max of 5 cards, and the cards, depending on the type, consume either themselves or up to 4 other cards in your hand. And that creates this really interesting mana curve. If you've played like Hearthstone or Magic the Gathering or a card game with a mana resource or something you have a limited access to every turn, you can sort of consider the deck as a Hearthstone or MTG deck, where you need to take cards to build your win condition, your skills, your spell cards, some of your generic system mechanic cards that everyone has access to, and try to design how best to use your meter to win matches. Are you going to design your deck to make heavy use of spell cards, your super attacks, and what have you? Are they going to be the low one cost options where you're using them frequently in like combos or neutral or in specific situations? Are you using them for the big 4 or 5 card cash outs where you're trying to do real big damage at the end of a combo, but you're waiting a while to get access to that? Are you modifying your default skill set with a bunch of different alternative skills through skill cards to maybe change how your character functions in some fundamental way? Are you using the system mechanic cards to have access to something like a Guilty Gear Dead Angle or a standard anime burst or a push block that you normally don't have access to? There's a really broad pool that you can use to customize your character chassis in a way that you think is fun to interact with. And while you can argue in a sense that there is a overall meta game, air quotes, for how you want to design decks for characters, it's still open enough that you can kind of design things however you want. And that's really interesting. You don't really see that in a lot of fighting games. The general immediate parallel you could draw would be something like Third Strike, where you can pick your super, which also defines how many super bars you have for utilizing stuff like EX moves. It's really, really interesting. Something you don't see very much.
Quite true. I think the parallel with Third Strike is like the easiest to do. I don't think I can even think of many other things. Maybe like tag fighters like Marvel, where you get to choose your assist, is the closest thing that comes to mind. But not many other fighting games even have access to any form of changing your moves. Because, like, imagine if you were to play like Ryu, right? And suddenly you decide instead of having Hadouken, you have some sort of like grab, right? Because to a degree, some characters can do that in this game. They can suddenly change a projectile into a grab, which is a pretty different move, I will say. It changes heavily how you can approach the game. And that is, yeah, again, like, do you know of any other fighting games that allows this kind of heavy customization? I think there is something, but nothing comes to mind right now.
So something that would definitely come to mind would be something akin to, I think some of the NRS fighters have had
True.
pick your
True, true,
option
true.
things. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of experience with NRS fighters, so
Me neither.
I'm probably gonna have egg on my face for this one, but I'm pretty sure they've had stuff like that. I know you've had like weapon styles, like weapon or fist swaps. That's like a whole
I
interesting
think
conversation to something that probably isn't really like close to it. You can also look
X
at
did
like
that, I think.
creative fighter stuff in some fighting games.
Mm.
While you were mentioning Street Fighter, like Ryu changing to a grab, I had to not be like, oh, so like a Street Fighter 6 World Tour character.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm playing Street Fighter 6. I didn't think about that. You know why? I'm not thinking about create characters because that's kind of like it's a bit different to me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
actual playable characters that are more defined, suddenly changing moves, while creating a character is it's its
It's
own beast
more of an
because
on the side for fun thing. It's not really the main
yeah,
attraction, so to say. Like it's not your
yeah,
looking at your base character, your Ryu gets to pick between Hadouken or fuck you up again or whatever, right? He doesn't get his
mhm.
alternate option on the forward quarter circle forward input versus in Soku where I'm playing Racing. I don't really want like eye laser because I think it's not really useful. I'm gonna take ripple vision so I can have an error like screen clearing projectile whenever I'm feeling threatened or whatever. It's super
Yeah.
super cool. You can I'm playing Iku lately just to learn the character, and I've replaced the 623 input with the air command grab, what's functionally
Mm,
Potemkin heat knuckle, and
right.
it fundamentally changes how you play that character because if possible you route into that and you functionally get a frame kill for pretty good Okizemi on the regular. It's super fucking interesting. And that's not something you get with her default kit because the 623 input on Iku is a guard point.
Yeah, it's not even.
It's
It's
it's such a
okay.
it's such a fundamental change to how the character works. It's so
Yeah.
interesting. It's so fucking interesting. And I think that that is super cool.
I think it's also worth mentioning here with the Street Fighter 6 character creation analogy is that in Street Fighter you have more motion inputs, right? So you have more moves to choose from. But in Soku, every character only has access to 4, unless you're Patchouli, who has 5, right?
Patchouli's
What
a
is
special
6?
little snowflake.
But yeah, like in Soku, you basically are the changing the moves is also like kind of like it's really hard to explain on the fly, right? Because you can change the moves, but it's not done out of the fight. It's done in the fight. So if you want to
Yes.
change an attack, it has to be done like by getting the card, which
Yeah.
might not even happen at the start of the round. Maybe even you get the card that you want at the end. That can happen, even if you have 4 of them, which is the maximum, by the
because
way.
you're still running on a probability system. This is where we get
Yes.
into the next interesting part of talking about deck construction.
Mm-hmm.
You are also functionally playing on card game probability. You have 20 slots in your deck, and you have a maximum of 4 copies of any individual card that you can put in that deck. That means, functionally speaking, you have a 1 in 20 of drawing any individual card, or a 1 in 5 of drawing a card if you have 5 copies of it. And that is another very important of designing your win condition through deck construction. If you want a single copy of a card, do you burn 4 slots to get that one single copy you need as soon as possible through probability? Or do you only do 3 or 2 or maybe 1 because you want to spend more of your deck space on supers or on system cards or maybe on other alt skills?
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting because this is something that a couple characters have to deal with. Patchouli is a really interesting example of that because she has one of the best DPs in the game in Emerald City. Does she want to burn 4 slots that she would otherwise probably want for her very strong spells to guarantee that she could get Emerald City if she wants to use it in that player's playstyle? Or do you put the 1 and hope that you get it when you need it so you can then leverage that like a terrorist against your opponent? It's really, really cool how you can do that. Like, for example, a fun example I'll pull through is the deck I run as Rayson, where I am running 4 copies of default 236 because that shit is really strong. Her default ability, because again, to kind of jump back a bit because probably forgot the context for this. Every character has a default kit, a level 0 special on every single input for that. And your alt skills are replacing that. You have to spend the card for it, right? The game also has a system where you can level up skills by using more copies of that skill card.
Yeah,
and it makes that skill exponentially stronger. So to tie this back to what I was about to say, because of course scatterbrain, schizophrenic conversation here, the default 236 gets significantly stronger both in damage and in chip damage the higher level it is. I run 4 copies in that deck, and my entire game plan is to get all 4 copies of that as soon as possible. I have a 1 in 5 chance from my first meter of drawing that card. The probability gets higher the more cards you spend. And a lot of my deck is very cheap 1-cost cards to cycle my hand as fast as possible. I have lots of 1-cost discarder, 1-cost Corolla Vision, because I want to be burning through my deck as fast as I can to make sure I get that level 4. And then, on the back end, on the higher cost of my curve, I have 4-cost Lunatic Blast, 5-cost Lunatic Red Eyes. Those are the big cash outs that I use when I hit the end when I get my win condition of getting my 4 copies of D236. That is designing a win condition. That is something that I think is incredibly fucking cool about this game, that you can look at a deck and go, here is my win condition. This is what I'm trying to achieve with the card selection I have in my deck. I don't think any other game really does anything remotely close to that. And it's so fucking weird.
I think it's the 2 things should be said here. One is that you say probability, but I call it 50-50. You have 50 chance that you get it and 50 chance you don't. If it's not 100%, it's just 50-50.
Yo, yeah, 50-50 every time, baby. Let's go.
I don't believe in probability. 1. 2, I think it's also interesting to mention about the way the meter works is that not only you have your chances of getting a certain card, but depending on how you draw them, you also have to consider how you spend your cards, because if you spend a spell card that uses 4 cards, you will have to burn as other cards outside the spell that you need, the super. So there is this kind of play where you have to consider how to manage your resources in a very unique way, because you are never in any game you play, you are never burning your resources in the same way. You always have to like play around the various cards you're drawing. It's never the same. It's really hard. Like sometimes you basically cannot use a super immediately because you want to use a skill card, which will make you lose fuel for the spell cards. It's
Another bit I want to add on to that, just because you woke my brain up there. Another really interesting to think of is when you have control over which card is in your active slot. You have 5 slots total, right? The first slot is your active slot. That is the card that the game will activate when you push the spell card button. You can only cycle your hand linearly forwards. You cannot cycle it backwards. And whenever you draw a new card, it goes on to the furthest back slot. This then creates this really interesting situation where your hand management is about shuffling your hand forwards in order to make sure that potentially the card you want to draw won't be fuel for a card you want to use, or you're putting a junk card in the fuel space for another card.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain in words how it works, but when you see a skilled player doing hand management mid-fight, it shows a level of awareness that I don't think most people think you would need for this game, and it's so interesting.
There's a lot of awareness for Hisoutensoku.
Yeah, well, I mean, what do we let's see. You have weather, you have card hand management, you have spirit
tech
management.
rolling. The tech rolling alone is a mess.
Yeah, that's
level up of skills.
That's a conversation for a totally other space.
projectiles.
We're gonna get sidetracked off if we jump into
it's,
that tangent. That is wild. But
there are many tangents that could be had. That's the problem.
this game is dense, holy. But
yeah, no, it's.
I think that's probably enough for discussing decks there, because we could probably have an entire focused discussion on decks, and that would be such a cool thing to go for.
I think it's good to have like a shortened point of this. Is like basically decks like goes back to a sort of like more interesting and complete version of the super system selection of Third Strike. I always think about that because like it's like an expanded universe of that kind of idea to me, at least. And that's the short version for people like if they want to visualize this in a simpler, like very very simple. Just this Third Strike super system, but expanded better.
Yeah, it's very very interesting. All right, let's move on to our second subject here. This is one that you and I both kind of agreed on, and we condensed our initial pitches for this one here. The second subject here is the concept of character archetypes and character kits. So, Hisoutensoku is a really weird video game. It's a really weird fighting game. It's got a really interesting quirk. Now, context for folks who haven't played this game before. This game is based on Touhou. And a core part of Touhou as a series in its gameplay is grazing, which is moving by projectiles so they don't hit you, but you get a little score ticker. And Zune for a long time has like had a little ticker on screen for that. It's just kind of a fun little thing, right? This manifests in Soku by dashing or flying in the air, putting you in what's called graze state, where you pass harmlessly through projectiles. And that creates this really weird situation where what you would consider traditional rushdown or zoner archetypes not really existing. Every character, by nature of how offense is structured, has to move very fluidly between rushdown and zoner. You need to make sure that you're running at your opponent, grazing through their projectiles, to make sure they can't just sit back and do nothing and zone you out. You don't have like a Dalsim or an Axel Low or like a very defensive Ryu who sits there just doing Hadokens for a while until you get close enough. You don't have a Sagat doing Tiger, 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 then he does Tiger Knee on you when you try to get close. So, what do archetypes look like in this game? This is where Genki had this kind of interesting suggestion, kind of concept he explained to me that I've kind of been taking very much in, I think is very real, of the light, heavy, and hybrid archetype. Do you want to take you want to try to explain to the class what your concept here? Do you want to take the floor for this one? Because I think this is super fucking interesting.
I have thoughts, that's for sure. So it's kind of a mess. First of all, we have 20 characters in the game. This is important, right? Now, I cannot give you the exact numbers because I kind of forget. But all those 20 characters, as you said, exist within this framing of the three types: the light, the heavy, and the hybrid. Now, the major focal point of each type is not even complex. This is a funny thing. The major difference of all these archetypes, so to speak, of those types, is that they have a different jab type. Just the basic jab of every character is just slightly different between each types. The light is able. Can we use the Melty example? That they have a quick anime jab, basically. Right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about like personal experience, right? Like
right.
Guilty Gear, Melty Blood, your typical anime fighter, Blaze Blue, right? Everyone always has a very fast, repeatable jab on like a 2A or something like that, right? Like everyone is like anywhere from 4 to like 5 frames is like considered a fast jab. Like 6 is considered like a slow jab in most cases, something like that.
Yeah, basically, it's like it's a jab. It's a quick move that you can use whenever. In Soku, it's nowhere that good due to how the game system is constructed. But I think we will get there. I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah.
But basically, light characters don't have any other jab, both standing and crouching, that isn't a light jab. This means that they have very little hit stun, very little block stun, and again, it's repeatable. It's a fast jab. Again, very Melty Blood-esque.
Yeah, like you'll watch some people run up to someone while playing like say Racing,
1A.
where they do like 2A, right? You watch people play Melty Blood, they're running fucking Tono, they run up 2A, right?
Very combo.
Yeah. Oh, shut up. That's Melty Blood.
I mean,
shut up.
But yeah, the hybrid and heavy, putting them together for a reason, they instead have either one or both jabs as a heavy jab. So the difference between the two is obviously that the heavier jab has more block stun, more hit stun. This might seem like a bizarre system because like that's it. That's the difference that make every character uniquely different. The thing is, it's an incredibly small thing, but somehow it just kind of breaks a lot of aspects in the game, both offensively, neutral, defensive. Obviously, in reality, a heavy character like tends to be similar to another heavy character. Like there is this clear design choice where heavy characters tend to have like better conversions usually, or better neutral through really good projectiles. Like there is some elements that they do share, but the main aspect is that it's the jab. This thing, the most important noticeable thing is the jab. Now, do we want to explain why the jab thing is so important? I presume so, right? It's important. I mean,
so here's the funny part about how the jab thing is. So light characters with repeatable jabs generally don't get good reward off of those repeatable jabs.
They don't combo into anything for them. Like you can repeat them, obviously, and they combo into themselves.
By design, right? A 2A will never combo into anything.
One thing, I know people will be annoyed about this. Some characters can cancel into something, but it is an asterisk.
Yes, asterisk. Yes, it is the exception, not the rule. And if we want to be pedantic about it, I don't care.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, a character does not generally get reward off of massive 2A string jabs. It doesn't just sitting there going 2A, 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 you hitting someone like 4 or 5 times, you're getting like a couple hundred damage at best. That's nothing. That doesn't give you
this game
anything.
is nothing.
You get nothing out of that if you're a light character. Hell, even the hybrid characters with a light jab, they don't get any. They generally don't get valuable reward off of that kind of stuff. It's a very much a, hey, I'm mostly just here like checking you to try to tell you to stay still or not do anything. That's usually the purpose that it's serving.
It's a poke. It's an annoying poke. That's it.
But then there's the heavy characters, the heavy jabs. Those heavy jabs go into pressure, go into combos, go into really, really annoying situations for the defender. Tenshi gets to push some real funny shit when she hits you with those jabs.
She just does a block string that is both a block string, a combo, like a combo start,
an automatic hit confirming combo that goes in that she can absolutely go into like a DP cancel for an easy thing, or if you're nice with it, you can go into like drill loops or something like that. I'm playing Iku recently, heavy character.
True.
Her 2A, technically speaking, is a better poke than her Far 5A. And that can go into 3A, which is pressure, and her combo starter, because 3A 6C IAJ2A is a fucking combo situation. If they block the 3A, if you do 5B, 2B or 5B if you want to be safe, do 5C if you want to be greedy, you get to continue from your jab into your offense, and you are given plenty of time to not remember the option select, but like confirm, react, confirm, see what you're doing. You can option select if you want to, but you absolutely have the time to react to what's going on, something that the light jabs don't get. And that leads into a very interesting point about the heavy characters, where the heavy characters in essence win on character select because they get a fairly linear game plan from the word go. The way that I would like to describe, the way that people who know will probably get it. A light character is anime, Guilty Gear, Melty Blood, Blaze Blood. A heavy character is Street Fighter, where you generally have a fairly linear sequence where you're not thinking about like quickly. You are working through it is a difference of speed. Slower characters play more akin to how Street Fighter does, where you are doing the big thing into your block string of, all right, am I gonna hit you with a frame trap? Am I gonna hit you with the safe option? I'm going to force you into a guessing game situation. Now, granted, we'll probably talk about it in a minute when we get into the concept of offense and pressure, because that is more relevant to that. But this is the main point of character archetypes, where hybrid characters sit in a very interesting middle ground niche, where they have one of each. One of their options is a repeatable jab, one is a non-repeatable heavy jab. Reimu is a very good example of that. Reimu is a character I love to use as an example of soku in a nutshell. Because Reimu is a protagonist character, she is your Ryu. She is your Saul bad guy. She is your Ragna the Blood Edge Genki Saragi. She is the embodiment of the game mechanics. She has a repeating jab on 4A and a heavy jab on 2A, where she spins her Gohei around in a slow but very annoyingly cancelable, rapid hitting big jab. And that and that 2A, she can do 6A off of it. She can do projectiles off of it. She has the whole cancel tree available off of a very big, annoying to deal with jab that goes into damage or pressure depending on what happens. It is really, really interesting, and the thing that makes it interesting to talk about is because let's dial this back to what I mentioned earlier, where every character exists on the spectrum of rushdown to zoner. Let's look at a
Yeah.
couple examples for fun, right? Reimu, let's our Jane Soku here.
Yeah.
Reimu sits firmly in the middle. Her toolkit, broadly speaking, lets her exist roughly as a rushdown, where she can play fairly aggressively, be moving forwards, forcing the opponent to
Mhm.
deal with her aggression, and partially in the zoner side, where she can sit back and fire off projectiles and force an opponent to come to her. Let's look at Rayson, character I play a lot. She is very much more firmly in the rushdown category, where she wants to be the one controlling the pace of the match, being in your face, forcing you to deal with the video game. She is there to be a problem. She doesn't have a lot of very strong lingering projectiles. She has a lot of good snipes and a lot of good ways to set up strong projectiles. Shut up, Genki. But
Okay.
she is fairly aggressive. Let's look at Patchouli. Patchouli is a
Mhm.
special little snowflake where she is both a zoner and a rushdown. You
Definitely.
would think from her toolkit she is a zoner because she is the creme de la creme projectile zoner. And yet,
Mhm.
she has access to some of the most frustrating close range offense in the game. Let's look at what's a good example here. Let's look. Iku would be another good example. She is more
Mhm.
of a defensive zoner. She is someone
Yeah.
I would put akin more to something like Axel in Guilty Gear, where she has a
Yeah.
lot of very big disjointed buttons that she wants to throw in your direction and frustrate you and force you to make movement mistakes or decisions that would get you hit. She's
But the
very good
twist
at
is
that.
there.
Like she's
Yeah.
got a very big, as I mentioned, a very large 2A that's a very annoying low poke. That thing sucks. She has a very big far 5A, while not a button you want to be pushing a lot, is a pretty big box you want to put down on people. She has a very good 6A for doing a little bit of swatting if someone's trying to jump at you at an awkward angle. She has an obscenely fast 6C for sniping, a very dense 5C that's just very good for putting a big ball on screen that'll explode later to put projectiles. She's just a very good zoner. Not necessarily great as a rushdown because she's a little bit on the slower side with her buttons, but she can still be a problem. She still has to go in because, by nature, and a fantastic segue here, we're going to talk about offense and pressure.
That's oh man, that's a segue. There is something I want to mention from before because I think I think you said something that kind of like unlocked like a thing in my brain when you mentioned that the heavy characters are Street Fighter. That is not something I ever thought of, but like there's something really incredibly real about that because like a very common thing you do in Street Fighter, I mean, at least if you're like a shooter, right, is the fabled crouching middle kick into Hadoken, right?
Yo, footsies?
And Futsis. And in the most modern iterations of the series, I want to say from 4 and onward, it's very common to do crouching medium kick, Hadoken, cancel into a combo or bloxing, right? Mostly super evident in something like 6, where you can do like crouching medium kick and then game, basically, do gaming as well.
Yep.
The thing is, the heavy characters in Soku are not really off from that. Like, they generally just do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and they try constantly to hit you with like a button into R cancel and then follow up from there. Like, Iku doing 3A, 6A, it's basically doing crouching medium kick into a Doken. Like, it's
Yep.
generally basically just that.
Yep.
The difference with the lighter characters, as you said, is more anime-esque because they are not trying to get like a big chunky frame trap button into like a basic sequence. They are just trying to do mix-ups into something. Like, they don't get to easily convert. It's more complicated the way they access a conversion. They often get a conversion out of like neutral interactions or like air interactions or like some pressure mix-up.
Yeah, because you'll see a lot
Uh,
of characters do stuff like, uh, let's say for example, right, like 3A, 5B, instant like
yeah,
high jump cancel forwards, instant air dash, J5A or
yeah,
something like that, right? Or they do like
that's very
jump,
raisin.
yeah, I know what I
Mm.
am.
Yeah.
things like that. That is very anime-esque. You see a lot of that in like Guilty Gear, right? Where you do like a
Right.
jump cancelable button into like instant air dash, falling button, or something like
Yeah.
that. You see it in Blaze Blue. You see it in Melty Blood. Versus again, the heavy characters playing more like a Street Fighter, where they're doing, their crouching medium kick into Hadoken for safety, or crouching
Mhm.
medium kick into like Tatsu for like a pickup or something like that, depending on who you're playing.
They get to a high jump cancel the Hadoken, but like fundamentally, yeah, they are closer to that kind of concept than just obviously they're playing Soku. You can still do the anime stuff,
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
blue stuff, but
Soku,
you're doing more heavy, more
Soku,
Street Fighter.
Soku at its heart is an anime game, which is
Yeah,
why the comparison to the Street Fighter character mindset is so interesting.
yeah,
But something that makes that really weird is that this game doesn't have traditional strike throw offense.
yeah. To go
This
back to
this
the
is where we
pressure,
get
right?
into the part where we're talking about offense and pressure now, because like
Yeah,
tying it all up here, because that was a great like tangent there that kind of gets into what we were going to talk about.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
that traditional fighting
So,
game offense, the idea of the Street Fighter footsies into safe or
mhm.
footsies into pickup, or the anime button air jump cancel stuff, is predicated on the threat of strike throw.
I gotta explain this, right?
Yeah,
I just,
this is your
I
run.
got,
This
I
is your
gotta.
show now. You go nuts, Genki.
I still need your help, but I need to make a point here. So,
Yeah.
as just said, the game lacks a basic strike throw. Hisoutensoku simply doesn't have throws. There are some asterisks and cases, but normal throws do not
Yeah,
exist. You
if we want to
cannot grab.
point at them specifically just to cover our bases on this, you
Yeah.
have Iku's throw, which is functionally just Potemkin Heat
In
Knuckle, which is not it's not a traditional
Shuriken.
throw. You have Yuyuko's Air Grab, which is not a
Yeah.
traditional throw. You have Remelia's Vampire Kiss, which is
That's good.
not. It's like kind of a real throw. It
Yeah.
has a lot
It's
of
a grab.
startup. It has a lot of startup.
Mhm.
You don't use it the same way. You have
Suika.
Yeah, you have Suika's kidnapping Oni, which is a weird vacuum throw. That one
Yeah.
I would argue is pretty real, but like that's an asterisk. We won't talk about that.
And Yomu.
You have Yomu's throw, which you have had
Very real, actually.
you have had extensive. That is like one of the realest throws in the game, and
But they do no damage.
it's still like big asterisk. You get like no real
Yeah.
reward off of it. There's probably
Math-wise,
Yeah, I think that's all the real throws in the game off the top of my
there
head.
might be another one, maybe somewhere, but I don't remember.
If
Possibly.
if it matters, we'll worry about another time. But regardless,
It's just asterisk. That the point is a real throw where you just get close, you beat someone defending, right? The point of the strike throw is that if you only do strikes, the opponent can just block. Obviously, asterisk high lows. Well, good news. This game does not also have high lows, at least not ones that break defense.
unless it's Sun Shower.
I'm doing sure. Debatably, unless it's Sun Shower, debatably. If only the game didn't have like a gigantic proration system on crushing guard.
I know.
Wow.
I know. It's almost like guard crushing. The point
It
of guard
doesn't
crushing
matter.
isn't dealing damage, anyways.
So the thing is, basically, in Soku, you don't have real high lows. You have what we like to call wrong blocks. You are incorrectly blocking an attack. Funny enough, it's closer to like Tekken because you have mids, highs, and lows. Obviously, you cannot crush highs, but like functionally, if you block incorrectly a high, you will get hit by a wrong block, which is losing your speed damage. And here you will your speed bar. And here you need to like explain the speed system, but like it just orbs on the HUD. You just have 5 of them. It's just energy.
The short answer is it's like the combination guard bar resource for your projectile options.
Thank you.
Like we won't dive too hard into it because that's going to be a whole conversation of its own. But
the drive system from Street Fighter.
Drive bar. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah,
it's a drive system. So basically, right, you have this system. There's no strike throw, and you have the wrong block. So what is happening here? Basically, your objective, ideally on paper, on somewhere on the space, is that you're supposed to crush the opponent defense. Once they have no orbs, they get guard crushed, and you have an opening to do like a combo, for example. Oh my god, I hate this. The problem of this system is that for some reason, the only things that do speed damage, first of all, are one, ROM blocks. And let me tell you, it's not easy because there is so much variation on the attacks. Is that once you learn how to like the game works, blocking correctly high and low is surprisingly easy. So that's great.
Yeah.
One.
So like the first, like I'll interject here. The first baked-in high-low mix generally is a character's 5A auto combo. Usually it's like high. It's like what, like mid, high, low, or like mid, high. Every character has a baked-in linear string.
No, that's the thing. There's no mix. It's like mid, high. It just Yomu does a unique low. That's.
I mean, no, because like Alice, right? Alice has like the low.
Oh yeah, sorry, low, high, high.
There's fucking like Ramelia has like some like a low in there too.
High.
Yeah, there's a lot of like baked in like things. Once you learn the linear string for every character, the mix up then becomes, are they going to do a command normal that's a high or a low? And you can usually fuzzy guard that because one comes out faster than the other. You just, as a default state, block one fat first then the other, and it's not hard to do also, that if you do basic study.
It's complicated. Like at certain distances you have less option even, so it gets uglier.
Fighting games.
So the other way to do damage, right? ROM blocks is one, fun. The other is using speed damaging attacks, which is just projectiles for the most part. Like just projectiles will do that. Now, all is really cool, but one, projectiles are often not plus enough to allow you to pressure further. There's obviously some that do that, obviously, but it is character dependent. And even when a character has them, it's not always easy to make that fun. It's not obvious when you play the character sometimes. Some are pretty simple. Others, not really. It's super, like, if you don't understand frame data and how to abuse frame data, and again, it's not like you press a button, you're like +7 or something. It's a bit, there's the high jump canceling and all that. It's so the actual issue is the actual issue is not like all this stuff. Funny enough, this is not the problem. Believe me, the actual issue is that for some reason the game sees all of this, so many layers of complications, and it says, very cool. Now you have 1 second to do speed damage, because after 1 second is gone, your opponent will recharge the orb they lost. It's not instantaneous, but it is quite quick, meaning that if you don't do a speed damaging mix every second, you cannot get crush. It's insane. It's extremely hard. You have to do a mix up every second.
This was the fun part of watching you go through the pressure video that you put out recently, where in that final bit where you just like stripped back the entire fucking the entire gag for your video. You're like, all right,
the framing, right? The framing is gone.
Man, you have a fucking 1 second timer for doing spirit damage. This is what actually dictates how offense works in the game. It fucking sucks.
I will need to showcase it because it said like this, like I don't get the in like Melty Blood, right? You press so many buttons in 1 second, so it's like that seems easy. Like just do a mix up, like there's a bunch of buttons, do high, low, whatever.
The main thing, like just from speaking from Melty Blood experience, the guard bar in Melty Blood is designed around the system mechanics that you have. If you're playing on Crescent or Full Moon, the guard bar is shorter because it's expecting you to make use of instant guard to refill your guard bar on the big options that your opponent spends. If you're playing Half Moon like I do, you don't get to do instant guard, but you have a significantly higher guard bar that lets you just kind of weather far more offense than other players do. The main thing is the game is still asking you to interact with the mechanic. If you are not interacting with your instant block, yeah, you're going to get guard crushed.
Not only that, but like you can do like really strong high-low mix-ups and throws, obviously.
Yeah, I mean it's a French break game. It's a fucking French break
obviously.
Game.
You have to deal with like so many options all at once. Soku is quite fast in how the options appear, but due to the fact that like you don't actually open up the opponent when you do something, it's more like a step-by-step process that tries to closely get to crushing the opponent at best. It's so overly complicated. Like setting up pressure that is able to every second do speed damage while at the same time staying on top of the opponent with plus frames that allow you to like cycle your pressure constantly. It's so hard to explain how like so complicated it is. Some characters don't actually have it really easy. Like Marisa can just 5C and she's like plus 35 or something. It's not even a joke. Like that's I think
mean,
she's 33 on jump cancel.
The thing is, Marissa is also Jane's Soku. She is the Ken function of. She is the red Shoto. She is aggression. She by design gets to be very, very in your face, and that's funny enough that she's a very good example of that microcosm of like she's one of the few characters who just gets to just do the really funny plus projectile and just continue to go in.
Just do 5C, yay! So 5C, high jump cancel, high jump C, JV, and like there's not much they can do technically. Oh boy.
Yeah, air quote. Technically, there is counterplay. Like, don't get us wrong. There is counterplay to this. This is where the next funny wrinkle of offense happens.
So
would you like to talk about border escaping? You want to talk about guard canceling?
So first of all, some characters can do easy pressure. Like Yo, for example, gets in your face, presses 6B, and that's plus something and that's speed damage. Very cool. But even if you have a character that is like, well equipped to do easy pressure, let's say, easy pressure, the opponent in defense, because not only there's all this going on already, they can just in block stun, all the direction, be down back, down forward or back, press dash twice, and they achieve a border escape. A border escape is functionally a high jump or dash movement from block stun. You cancel the block stun, lose one orb of your spirit bar, and just jump somewhere. This is, useless to say, extremely strong. And truth be told, there isn't really much of a counterplay. Like, I'm not joking. Unless they choose a really bad spot to border escape, then there isn't really much of a... You can do a counterplay. It's not like the super strong mechanic that wins all the time. But the counterplay is heavier on the offender than the defender. Basically, you have to... The player on the offensive has to do way more work than the one on the defense to, counter this. And if it wasn't clear already, this is just the entire theme of like the game. Defense is extremely potent and so, oh my god.
So let's tie this back to something I said earlier. Let's talk about those heavy characters, right?
I like this game. I love Soku.
No, this is something. So I joke a lot about how like, oh man, this shit is so rough. This part of the game, border escape existing, is something that makes me love this game above pretty much any other game I've played. Because this forces such an interesting interaction between the attacker and the defender. So again, let's go back to that example that I set earlier, right? Iku does 2A, 3A, 5B.
I play the defender, right? I'll do the defender. You do 2A, 3A. Something simple.
If the Iku player is always doing that, if I block that 3A, I just border escape forwards. By border escaping forwards, I'm put into a dash state running forwards, I graze through their projectile, and generally speaking, the border escapee will recover before the attacker does. And that means
one option.
If they are going into constant linear offense, they are not adjusting their strings, they are not looking at the screen and tweaking what they're doing, the defender, for free, gets to punish the attacker for being lazy and complacent.
Yes.
The interesting wrinkle is what happens when the attacker starts intentionally targeting border escape as an option. So let's give an example I'm far more familiar with. I'm playing Racing. I'm attacking a defender. I am doing 3A, 5B as a string in my defense because this is like I'm on my layer 0 doing my basic offense here. My opponent starts border escaping on that 3A. They start border escaping upwards to jump out and get out of the corner to try to return to neutral because that's where they're comfortable with.
Me too.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
As the attacker, I have to make higher commitment options specifically to target that border escape. This is universal for the entire cast. No one has a one-size-fits-all, I'm going to cover a defender and a border escaper at the exact same time. That's not how this game works, period.
Asterisk again, but whatever.
Okay, shut up.
It's true though.
Shut up. You're right. You're right. You are 100% right, but shut up. I'm trying to make an example. Trying to make an example here.
I mean, it's not even a good asterisk.
Yeah, no, it's like one
anyway.
specific example that's kind of stupid. Don't worry about it.
It's the spell mechanic, whatever.
Yes, this is a part of the important thing though. I want to talk about that specifically because this gets into one specific character who is very interesting to talk about offense. Yukari.
Yeah.
If my opponent is consistently doing border escape like 2DD to jump straight upwards to get out of my offense because I'm always doing 3A 5B. I then do 3A 5B instant air J6A to catch that. I am preemptively, emphasis on preemptively, calling out the border escape because you cannot reactively catch a border escape. A border escape is fast enough that you will not fundamentally react to that thing happening. It is just not feasibly humanly possible. We have talked about this with human reaction speed. This has been an entire fucking debate. You don't get to actively react to border escape. You are preemptively making that decision. Here's the wrinkle.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
So it is true. Like you say, it's correct. I just want to make a note. Like the preemptive part is to try and punish a border escape, and even then, you may not be able to do so. You can obviously react to a border escape, but rather than like punishing the border escape, you just kind of body block them, keep them in check, right?
Yes.
That's no punish.
Yeah.
Even a punish, if done preemptively,
Button punishes generally are a preemptive thing. Like this
Yes.
is true for like literally every fighting game. Like a button punish like that is something you are preemptively selecting unless someone is letting like a 40 frame option rip, which I don't think we even have these days in modern games. Usually everything is like 20-ish frames max.
25?
Yeah, 25. I think maybe we could probably pull an example from like Strive or something, maybe from Street Fighter, but I don't really. That's not part of
30 frame stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, that's not part of the point here.
Yeah.
By doing that instant air J6A as Rayson, I am explicitly calling out an opponent stand blocking or border escaping.
Mm-hmm.
If that opponent was crouching because they were expecting, like, just, you're gonna do 5B, I'm just gonna block and like wait for a second or whatever. That J6A whiffs, and Rayson J6A is not actionable if it whiffs. Which means, because I guessed incorrectly, my offense is over, the defender now is out. And I think having to make those kinds of decisions in fighting games are really fucking cool. You see that a lot in fighting games in general, where you have to make a decision between, I'm going to make a committal call out to some kind of defense mechanic. Like, Guilty Gear burst baiting is a thing that people have to do, where you are intentionally not following through with your combo
Pressure,
not just pressure, but like combos or whatever, to bait an opponent to burst. You see this as a Saul player in Guilty Gear. Doing JH in a combo is generally a burst bait point, where because Saul JH recovers instantaneously, you can bait someone into bursting. The JH will whiff. Saul JH has 0 recovery. You hold block. They bursted. They've wasted it. You've blocked it. You now are punching them for wasting their burst.
Why is it like that?
You have all kinds of interesting things like that. That is so. There is an interaction. There is a back and forth happening, and defense being super strong by border escaping existing creates this super, super fucking cool back and forth push-pull between the attacker and the defender that I don't really feel from a lot of other games I play.
Tekken has it to a degree, I want to say.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Tekken is very like that
I
a
mean,
lot.
the thing that's actually an interesting thing you bring up because I like to liken border escaping to sidestepping pressure
Yeah,
strings.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a really fun comparison because a sidestep in Tekken is a very like committal defense option that is calling out committal offense options. Because
Yeah,
despite what we are joking around here about, like, oh, border escape is so brainless. No, you are committing. You are sacrificing
it's commitment. Yeah.
temporarily sacrificing one max orb to get out of a situation. If you are wrong
Mhm.
on that guess, you have spent one orb and are probably getting comboed for it. Or at worst,
No,
you're getting put back into offense. Now, to the defender's credit, border escaping refreshes your current spirit to its new maximum. So let's say, for example, I have 5 max orbs. I am on half of my final orb, and I don't want to get guard crushed. It's not that bad, by the way, but I
nah.
also don't want to risk taking, like hoping my opponent guesses wrong and taking some kind of dumb decision. I could just do something like a very like border escape forwards immediately into blocking to see what happens. I lose 1 max orb, but I refresh from that half 1 orb to 4, which gives me another 4 orbs worth of defense wiggle room to play with.
Or neutral, a way to play more offense.
Yes, that another very interesting thing.
JB6 is so cool.
You can
JB6 is
use
so
border
cool.
escape offensively when you are in mid-screen offense, and that is a very
Mhm.
fucking interesting conversation we should probably have at some point.
It's mostly in the air. Like you can do board escape, and you can do a board escape 6 in the air, which makes you do a slight air dash that doesn't cost an air dash, which you have 2 normally in the game. So you
Yeah,
can do like extra, like you have 3, 4, 5 extra. If you start bleeding orbs, you're gonna die. But you
yeah.
at least have like an extra, which is also, as you said, you can like use your meter, jump forward, block something, do a board escape, recharge, go in. It's an entire thing.
Yeah.
It's
It's also probably worth mentioning since, for those not familiar with Soku's mechanics, a broken orb does recover fairly
oh
quickly.
yeah.
The
Mhm.
more orbs you've lost, the faster the recovery is. The If you're down to 2 orbs, that lost orb recovers in like a second and a half. And
Yeah.
that happens independently from what's happening to you currently. That max orb is going to recover even while you're blocking. You
Mhm.
are like that fifth orb, that like first orb you lose of your meter kind of sucks. That takes like 3-ish seconds if memory serves to come back, which can feel like forever.
Something like that.
It's long
Yeah.
enough that you'll feel it. The thing is, operating on like 4 orbs isn't that big of a deal outside of very specific character matchup situations where you're
Um,
dealing with stuff like Sakuya killing Doll Okizemi, right? That's like
oh,
on
true. Yeah.
on 5 orbs, you look at that, you're like, I don't fucking care. I'll block the 50-50, no big deal. You're on 4 orbs, you're like, I better fucking block that 50-50 or I'm toast. If you're on 3, it's like
Yeah.
I'm dead.
I'm
I don't know what
done.
I can't block that. I'm gonna get guard crushed. Thing is, as we were alluding to earlier, way further back, being guard crushed in this game applies heavy proration to damage, so you take
Yeah.
significantly less than what you would have if you were hit raw. Again, it feels like a slap on the wrist for the most part. The main thing is depriving your opponent of resources by reducing their max spirit. Not only does that stop them from defending for a long time through basic blocking, but they also don't have access to resources for more projectiles. It's such an interesting fucking push-pull. It's something that makes offense in this game feel so engaging and interesting, because by being correct and guard crushing your opponent, you are depriving them of resources. By forcing them to constantly do border escaping to make themselves safe, because you are scaring them, you force them to be deprived of resources. This gets into the thing that Genki pioneer, like I'd say pioneered, he mainly pushed the idea that there is a strike throw adjacency, not traditional strike throw, but there is
Yeah.
the guard crush or frame trap. The fear of
Yeah.
guard crushing creates space for an opponent to make mistakes to be frame trapped. It sounds weird and unhinged on the surface, but if you have the chops and you understand what strike throw represents in a fighting game, guard crush frame trap makes sense.
It's it's the RPS of this game. It's not just applied to defense or offense. it's just the entire game. It's once you understand that, as you said, you kind of have the entire game on your hand for the most part. A good chunk of it is, right? Understanding correctly the RPS allows you to, well, yeah, play the game. Pretty much. I mean, because it sounds so obvious in other fighting games. Oh, you do strike throw. Whoa, you're throwing them when they're blocking. Insane. The thing with Soku is that the main offense RPS is applied to the entire game, and actually understanding how it works, it does allow you to like play good neutral, really good neutral. And you mentioned before, like on some matchups, like it's kind of bad to have less orbs, which is very hyper specific. But in general, in this game, if you know how to like utilize your speed correctly, you barely ever like are on low orbs or like worry about being on a broken orb. I think a lot of people tend to like misuse their speed bar for a reason or another. It's very Street Fighter 6-esque as you think about it. Like lower level players just kind of like drive rush all the time and they just kind of burn themselves out. It's the same thing. It happens in Soku too.
It's really funny you say that, right? Because like low level players will drive rush constantly and burn themselves out and die. Intermediate level players will sparingly use drive rush because they don't want to burn themselves out, and then high level players will constantly burn themselves out because they know that if they have to use that offense tool to get in and make themselves known.
Yeah, basically, they know how to like
it's that bell curve,
it
right? It's that bell curve. It's like on the left side, I IDK, I drive rush. Middle of it, drive rushing too much is dangerous and burning out is death. Right side, IDK, I just drive rush.
It's about using correctly your drive meter. Soku is the same. It's so many things going on in this game. I want to mention all of them. Like you mentioned how like depuration is, it's fine to get crushed, which is true. There's like a super secret asterisk though, where lately I've noticed that some attacks, mostly like spell cards or like certain specials, do hefty amount of like chip damage. So if you're not paying attention, when you do get crushed, sometimes like you lost more life than you actually like the game doesn't tell you that you're losing chip damage because like it ticks down obviously, but there's like no red bar or anything. So in certain situations, you do lose a lot of HP. You don't know because it was chip damage.
Yeah, I do that a lot to people as Racing, right? Like my core game plan as Racing is I'm trying to leverage the D236 as a spirit, like a chip damage tool, rather than like trying to open someone up, because a genuine tactic in fighting games, you don't necessarily need to open someone up if you can chip them out. Amane in Blaze Blue is a great example of that, of a character where the entire point of that character is he just wants to do chip damage. He doesn't actually have to open you up and like combo you. He can just sit there and like just put drills on you if you're not willing to engage with him, and he can just fucking kill you.
Insane design.
And as you said, like, because Soku doesn't really have like the Guilty Gear bar turns red when you take chip damage to show how much you took through a sequence or whatever, you don't necessarily notice it unless you're being very cognitive of your life bar.
Like Sakuya doing Killing Doll might not crush you, if you guess correctly, but you probably lost some HP.
Yeah, you lost a lot of life from blocking it.
Yukai using Ren is like some hefty damage if you don't know.
Yeah, actually, funny that you mentioned Ren. I want to jump back to a pin I put into the mention of Yukari in the offense structure stuff, and that one exception you mentioned. So one exception to the border escape being such a mindless tool, supposedly, is supers lock you out of border escape. The moment super flash happens, the defender cannot border escape. This is really important for some characters because they have the very important plus on block spell card options. Yukari is the easiest example of this because Ran is a game plan in of itself for that character.
For real. All
Yukari really needs to do is put you in a block string and put Ran on you, and she gets to go back in and be very annoying. And if you are in crush range, seeing Ran super flash is like the William Dafoe looking upwards at the fucking, like, at the sky, like, oh no, right? That is what happens that is a very, 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 very fucking important counter. And when someone is cognitive of someone's tendencies to border escape, they will generally try to use supers to stop you, lock you in place, and force you to block something that probably is going to guard crush you. I definitely done that to someone where we've been low enough on the life bar where I do my like far 5A, 3A, I do lunatic blast or LRE, and I can see that they like tried to border escape, the input got 8 and they fucking explode from it. That kind of stuff happens. That is another important. The thing is, that's tied to your super meter, and you only have 20 cards. You only have 20 chunks of super meter through an entire game. Once you're out of cards, you're done.
And you only have 4 of the same card. So even if you have like a really good one, you know, repeated for the entire deck is a limitation of that. It's a really busy game. There's like a lot going.
It's genuinely super cool. This is the point of what I wanted, like why I wanted to have this conversation with you and have this as like a thing we could put out to the broader fighting game community internet space of like, look at this is our opinion on this game and what we think is super, super fucking cool about Soku. At this point, we've largely exhausted the conversation subjects. I was looking at the timer here. That was 30 minutes about the offense discussion. That's a very standard thing whenever we get into this. Offense in Soku is such a very interesting meaty burrito to discuss, and getting to sit down with someone.
She cancels.
I know that's the sad part. Like
that's the thing.
There's still so much more that we could talk to. Like there's the cancel tree. There's the idea of the dash attacks. There's the idea of like how you set up frame traps. Yeah, there's just we could probably do an entire
charge. We didn't mention charge attack, which is like
overhead,
like real low overhead
charge command normals. Yeah, where you actually get real guard crushes. It's there's just so much, unfortunately, that
neutral. We didn't talk about neutral, which is.
Well, that's something we could probably discuss another day. I mean, we talk about it enough in your community where we discuss like neutral concepts and stuff. So it's But again, this is largely what we hope that this kind of gives a good primer to a listener here of why we think our game is really cool and why people should check it out in current year. You know, it's and getting close to the end of 2025 at this point as of recording here, dating this instantly. And this is a game that doesn't get a lot of recognition from the larger FGC space. The community for this game is unbelievably passionate. Everyone who plays this game loves this game to death. We all love talking about how to approach this game. There's a lot of very different mindsets in how we view the mechanics, and the fun part is that a lot of this stuff is very fun fighting game subjective that leads to a lot of very cool discussion if you're willing to play ball with just how loose fighting game structure can be depending on interpretation. Because, of course, the only fundamental objective truth about a fighting game is frame data, because frame data is just math.
I mean, Sagem, post that Sagem before the game is math.
Dude, we'll do our community classic in our sphere. Post the Genki, post the Sagem video.
I will post so many Sagem videos. Wow. It's a true, like, it's a real, the drapes are blue and that signifies sadness moment. Depending how you angle the discussion, you get to see a different perspective.
Yeah, this is why I absolutely adore this game, why I still play it to this day rather than a lot of the modern games that are objectively very good. And why I will probably still continue to play this game well until I'm geriatric and can hardly move my fingers.
Besides, it's the only fighting game, as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty good and contains Kompaku Yomu from the Toe Project. Which I think, personally, personal opinion, I do think it's a pretty cool character. Just an opinion I have right now. All the many opinions I share.
Alrighty, well, with that, I feel we've probably run our course. We're running on a good hour and almost 10 minutes now, so yeah, I appreciate you finally having the availability with me to be able to have this talk, and I hope that whoever's listening at home enjoyed listening to two old men discuss why they think fighting games are very cool. Again,
Absolutely.
I'm Comrade. This is Genki. Appreciate you coming out to listen, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you when we see you, which is next time, whenever that happens.
Probably. We will probably do another not a podcast, honestly.
Eventually. Have a good one, fellas.